Tell me about religion. You started off as quite an
How long have you got? It's a big subject.
I know it is, but just to finish on it, I mean, obviously, your life has been one of changing your beliefs, which is a kind of a great thing to witness, and you can probably offer some perspective that
No.
But, I've been speaking with a bunch of people in America who are probably conservatives and having discussions about the left and liberals, and something I never thought of before, but most of them believe that when the Founding Fathers started America, that the structure of religion was one of the key components in all of this working. And they said without it, it's never going to work on its own. And I had never really pondered that until I started talking to them. And I'm curious what you think.
Well, that's a simple Burkean point, isn't it? If men are not prepared to put restraints on themselves from within, which have to be based on religious precepts, then they will have more and more restraints placed on them from without. And a lot of what we see in this crisis now is the triumph of fear. People are afraid, and people like being afraid more than they're prepared to admit, and also people like being told what to do more than they're prepared to admit. Freedom's not that popular. Fear is not as disliked as people like to let on. The great thing about religion is that it took fear, as I say, out of politics and out of society. Again, Edmund Burke, a man who truly fears God will fear nothing else. And if you genuinely believe, or can persuade yourself that it's enough of a likelihood to bet on, that death is not the end, then your concerns will be wholly different. But once that idea has gone, and I think the 20th century in Western countries has more or less killed the idea that death is not the end and that God is supreme in the universe, then you're left with a gap, which is filled to a great extent by idealistic politics. And politics to me, it's a sort of form of heresy from religion. People engage in it for reasons for which people would once have engaged in religion. They believe that the temporal world can be made, if not perfect, so near to perfect that it's worth a lot of effort to do it. And they become, you see it particularly in the man-made global warming movement. It has very many of the characteristics of a religion. These are people who believe very strongly that they know something really good, and that they need to spread the word of it to as many people as possible, and that they will do an awful lot of good if they can achieve the triumph of that idea. It's easy to sympathize with that, and it's easy to see why people are captivated by it. I don't have any difficulty with that. But the thing is, it's fundamentally it has in the end to become involved with politics. Whereas religion takes these very, very powerful forces out of politics and out of the relations between us, and makes them matters between us and God, and is in that way actually much less of a threat to people's freedom. My late brother used to go on about the celestial North Korea. But the whole point about North Korea is that it's here, it's on Earth. The leader is worshipped, his power is total, and the whole point about the celestial polity is that it's not on Earth. It permits you to have whatever political opinions you care to have, in my view, and it permits you to live your life within the understanding of its moral commands very freely. And if you actually abide by it seriously, then it makes it possible for the hand of government to be extremely light.
It seems like an essential human technology that worked for thousands of years, but now it's been phased out.
Well, it's an extraordinary. We do live in a very, very strange era in which we have, through enormous scientific achievements, utterly transformed our view of the universe. But in my way, in a mistaken way, in arguments that I try not to have with atheists, because they're often so very boring, I ceaselessly point out the fact that Albert Einstein was not an atheist. He wasn't a religious believer by any manner of means, but he did not dismiss some sort of theist explanation of the universe in that whatever the explanation was, it wasn't one that man could understand. It's a wonderful metaphor of a huge library full of books written in a language we couldn't read. And confronted with that, who could assert knowledge of subjects completely beyond us? So it's worth looking up what he actually said about it. One of the most intelligent things said about it ever, I think. But atheism, as I said, is actually political. It's an assertion of the power of man. And it's also a turning away from this really, really frightening idea, as I say, that death is not the end. But the problem with that is that one of the things which struck me greatly when I was having the argument with myself about ceasing to be an atheist is that it's quite plain from any study of human society that there is no justice in it. Even in the best developed and most civilized of human societies, justice is fundamentally lacking. And yet we have this tremendous impulse towards justice. It's one of the things which we are driven by. We don't control it. So it seemed to me that sort of mathematically you had to extend the area of justice beyond this life for it to be workable.
So without religion, we'll never have justice, and we want
Well,
justice.
there is no justice, but the thing is, if you desire justice for others, then you call it down on yourself. And I suspect that quite a lot of atheists fear that there is justice in the universe and don't want there to be. And think that, as so many people do when after all, this is a choice of belief about the unknowable. When they choose the belief that the universe is a random, chaotic accident with no significance, in which your actions have no meaning beyond their immediate detectable effects, then that's preferable to what they fear is the other thing, where the universe is meaningful, does have a purpose, and your actions, as G.K. Chesterton, who I don't much like most of the time, but he said one of the things about a religious view of the universe is that you understand that what you do here matters somewhere else, and that your understanding of your actions may, at the time you undertake them, be wholly wrong. You're seeing the pattern of the tapestry from the back rather than from the front. You're misleading yourself. And you have clever and charming and thoughtful atheists like Thomas Nagel, who will actually ask themselves, though they don't answer it, why is it that I so much do not want there to be a God? And this impulse, if you ever actually get into it with most atheists, they will claim, to me absurdly, that they have no power over this choice, that it's impossible for them to believe in God. Actually, anybody can believe in God if they want to. You just have to say that you do so. There's no sort of mystical experience necessary. But they say they can't, I say they won't.